You know, Alex, we might have got rid of Soviet communism, but we've really got Eurocommunism, and it's alive and well with centralised state control. And no free speech is allowed unless it's approved by the dear leaders. Because actually, you know, we took the brick out of the wall for Brexit, and what we've seen is that the edifice is now coming down. So across Poland, across Hungary, in Italy, in Austria, the people are revolting. They're actually voting in the populist leaders. So what they're trying to do is control our speech. And I wasn't just shut down about talking about Brexit, and that speech, I have my 1 minute. You're only allowed to have a minute. You're not allowed to have any more. And they cut you down. They stop you just before that minute, whereas others go on for ad infinitum. I also asked a question, an urgent human rights question, about Tommy Robinson to the UK Conservatives. I don't call on the European Parliament to do anything, so my question was directly to the UK Conservatives. As soon as I said, I have got an urgent human rights question, I am given the floor because that's what happens before voting, and then I was shut down. As soon as I mentioned Tommy Robinson in the urgent human rights question, my microphone went off immediately and the whole place erupted, apart from our side, who has been standing up for Tommy. You know, he's been an issue across the whole of the EU.
We're getting our guests lined up via Skype from Europe. EU Parliament Chair cuts off Janice Atkinson, who is a shining example of the whole Brexit party that's spreading across Europe. And she got cut off during her parliamentary speech, saying you're going too fast. This is how they're trying to keep people from having their speech. And the same EU system, the unelected bureaucracy that's on top of it, is telling them that they're going to now try to pass next month Article 13 and Article 11 that we're going to be going over for you, that details the end of the internet as we know it. And that's even leftist tech publications say that. I mean, it's not just banning memes. It's unbelievable. So that's all coming up. But first, let's play a clip. EU Parliament Chair cuts her mic off. Romanian MEP tells her, go home. And then we have a nasty verbal exchange with her and the leader of the UK Conservatives about Tommy Robinson. Let's play both of those. The fireworks are heating up.
Month after month. Trump and Kim, let's celebrate it. Austria, Italy, Hungary, Poland, Slovenia. We're all moving on. Your regime has become more and more irrelevant. In London on Saturday, 20,000 people attended a rally to free political prisoner Tommy Robinson. And those 20,000 people supported Brexit. In May, another 10,000 people marched in support of free speech. They too support Brexit. 17.4 million people voted for Brexit. They still support Brexit. The majority of the people want the government to get on with Brexit. You people entertain UK Ramonas, the modern-day devil, George Soros, a foreigner kicked out of his own country, an open borders billionaire who openly fights democracy. He openly pays MEPs to dance to his tune. You're all suffering from DDD, democracy deficit disorder, and that's why we're marching again in London on the 23rd of June. We want our country back. Don't cut me off.
No, you're going too fast.
1 minute to now.
No, you're going... could I just ask... Can you listen? Because I think we both speak English, so we can be very clear. What I was trying to do was help you communicate. You are going far too fast for the interpreter.
Yeah, but do you know, I'm not speaking to all of them in here. I'm speaking to the UK. I'm speaking to Mrs. May. I wasn't sent here to talk to any of you. I was sent here to defend the British people.
Can I just... Colleagues, please. Please, just a little bit of quiet,
Most of you understand English. English is the language of the world. English is the language of this parliament.
She cuts her off.
Okay, let's calm down. Let's calm down.
Let's calm down.
Could I ask you, madam, to sit down with respect? Sorry? And could I just say to you, as somebody who speaks very clear English, in this chamber, we are all elected by citizens. And the one remark that I had some concern about was your opening line where you said, you lot. Because as far as I'm concerned, we are all elected by citizens to represent our citizens' many points of view. And
cuts her mic off so she can take her time and then say, no, the EU didn't lose when England voted to leave. And again, that's the ceremonial parliament. They have the bureaucracy above it, and it runs it. So this is how they want to silence everybody. This is emblematic of it. Here it is.
Your contribution. Mr. Wolf, 1 minute, please. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It seems that you, as Mrs. Atkinson as well, you are speaking only to UK, to Mrs. May and to the British people. Why are you here within the European Parliament? You should have to go home to speak,
Hit
because
pause.
here you speak to the European...
Back this up 20 seconds. This is so incredible. You've got this Romanian member of parliament saying, you need to go home. You need to get out of here if you don't want to address us. So they do this little bureaucratic leftist nudge where they go, oh, you're speaking too fast. She's not speaking fast, at a regular cadence. You're going too quick for the interpreter. Then they cut her off, dress her down, then another guy jumps in. Oh, let me jump in and bully the lady. We don't have uppity ladies around here. Why don't you go home? Why don't you go? She's trying to get out of the EU. That's what she just said. We want to leave. You're a corrupt thing. We don't want to be part of it. We pulled out. Follow our vote. He's like, you do not want to be with us. You go. We run you. We tell you what to do. We open you up to Islam. But then you do what we say now. Let's finish up with it. Just unbelievable. Here it is.
Speaking only to UK, to Mrs. May and to the British people. Why are you here within the European Parliament? You should have to go home to speak, because here you speak to the Europeans, you speak to all the European Union countries and people. Why don't you go home? Probably it might be time. Thank you.
Well, thank you. I will be going home at the end of March in 2019, thanks to the 17.4 million people that decided Brexit was a brighter future for Britain outside of the European Union. But I also do speak for those people up there who understand that there is a class war going on in Europe as well, a class war that is seeking to deny those who have been voted in Poland and Hungary, in Slovenia, those people who have voted for those in Germany in the AfD, for those in Holland, those in France, those who seek a different future for Europe, not a orientated future that you and many MEPs in this chamber support.
And then they cut his mic off. We're going to break here. We've got our guest, Janice Atkinson, on with us, janiceatkinson.co.uk. But just the 40 seconds we have, is the irony not lost on them that you're trying to leave them and they're telling you shut up and go home?
Yeah, but do you know, Alex, that was a Romanian MEP, and he's a socialist as well. I shouted across the chamber, why don't you take back the 50,000 Romanians that have been invading my country for the past few years? We've had 50,000 arrive ever since we allowed them to exceed the European Union. So for 4 years, we've got about 200,000 of them living in my country. And most of them, 90% of them, are committing.
All right, we'll be back on the other side with Janice Atkinson. I'm Alex Jones, Infowars.com, Newswars.com. Spread those live links. Soros is getting run out of Europe. It's a beautiful thing. We're winning. Alex Jones back live. Next segment, your phone calls, folks. Janice Atkinson is an amazing member of the EU Parliament. It's ceremonial. But they vote on a lot of things, and the permanent bureaucracy likes it. They then go along with it. But more and more, they're shutting down the nationalist patriot movements within it that are using the parliament as a bully pulpit to expose the authoritarian nature of the EU that was actually hatched by Adolf Hitler. So in this 10 minutes we have, you've got the floor, Janice. I'm glad we fixed your Skype problems. JaniceAtkinson.co.uk. The people just joined us, the amazing footage of them silencing you and other nationalists just from your speech, saying you speak to us, not to your country. Just next level, and you tie that in with people trying to pull out all over Europe. You tie that in to the GDPR. You tie that in to Article 13, Article 11, that even leftist media says ends free speech as we know it. I mean, they are really panicking. What's going on over there right now?
You know, Alex, we might have got rid of Soviet communism, but we've really got Eurocommunism, and it's alive and well with centralized state control. And no free speech is allowed unless it's approved by the dear leaders. Because actually, you know, we took the brick out of the wall for Brexit, and what we've seen is that the edifice is now coming down. So across Poland, across Hungary, in Italy, in Austria, the people are revolting. They're actually voting in the populist leaders. So the equivalent of Brexit in Italy. My good friend, Matteo Salvini, is now the Interior Minister, and he's shutting down mosques and he's sending home imams, and he is rejecting 500,000 immigrants. They're doing this exactly the same with my friends who are in the Freedom Party for Austria. And of course, over in Poland and Hungary, they're saying that they're not going to accept the migrants that are going to be imposed upon us. So what's actually happening is that you are seeing a fight, a very existential threat to their actual federalist being. So they've got elections in May 2019. Hopefully the UK won't be there, but they're fighting for their real life. They're fighting for the ideal of this Europe that they've sent up with this centralised state control. And because the people are revolting all over the Europe, as you did in America with Trump, and you've got to get rid of Trudeau in Canada, the edifice is falling down. So what they're trying to do is control our speech. And I wasn't just shut down about talking about Brexit. And that speech, I have my 1 minute. You're only allowed to have a minute. You're not allowed to have any more. They cut you down. They stop you just before that minute, whereas others go on for ad infinitum. I also asked a question, an urgent human rights question, about Tommy Robinson to the UK Conservatives. I don't call on the European Parliament to do anything, so my question was directly to the UK Conservatives. As soon as I said, I have got an urgent human rights question, I am given the floor because that's what happens before voting, and then I was shut down. As soon as I mentioned Tommy Robinson in the urgent human rights question, my microphone went off immediately and the whole place erupted, apart from our side, who has been standing up for Tommy. He's been an issue across the whole of the EU. But again, there's no free speech unless it's approved by the dear leaders.
I have several articles here today where, as you said just a few months ago, you were talking about your colleague might be able to form a coalition and take back Italy, and then, boom, it's happened. And you have to understand, these are mosques openly calling for the overthrow of Europe, for killing of Christians. These are imams that are connected to ISIS, Al-Qaeda, that they're shutting down. These aren't moderate things. And then now you've got these major, quote, refugee NGOs that are funded by Soros, and now Italy's announcing that they're going to use their navy to seize those ships. And so the EU responds saying, no, we're going to have an EU navy to counter you. There it is. Italy moves to seize 2 migrant rescue ships. Well, no, those are migrant ferries out of North Africa. I mean, it's just a brazen globalist invasion. It's incredible. And Europe is awakening, and Soros is panicking. He's being run out of Hungary. Tell us what else is happening.
Yeah, of course, you've got the NGOs and the charities that are funded by us, the taxpayer, and of course the UN. So you've got Médecins Sans Frontières, the Red Cross, etc. They're aiding and abetting these people to cross the Mediterranean. And the UN is just opining on Twitter every single day. So many people lost at sea. So many people are dying. But my message and our message is to the refugees, the real refugees, you should be registering in the first port of that you actually come to. But the EU wants to stop that. Next month there is a vote to say, let's get rid of the Dublin rules. And so therefore they can redistribute all over. But what we're saying is that the message that should go out to Africa, because Africa's population is going to double in the next 10 years. What's going to happen? So we should be telling those people there's no jobs, there's no houses, there's no welfare, there's no cash, there's no magic rainbow, there's no magic...
We need to develop Africa. They need to be made first world, stabilize their population. We can't bring them in as a permanent client state. What, 90% of the refugees 5 years later don't have a job, of the leftist, of the socialists. They're just bringing in a detonator of people that are not compatible because of radical Islam, who they can detonate politically. I mean, well, that's my opinion. Why do you think the globalists are trying to bring in these populations that don't assimilate?
I think there's this white guilt that they've had, this colonialism guilt from France to Germany to us, etc. They absolutely hate our culture and identity. And don't forget, those open borders have let 50,000 jihadis in. And we've got another 1,000 jihadi wives that want to come back to the Middle East. These bleeding heart left liberals think that these people should be allowed back into our country. And don't worry, they'll re-assimilate.
And
we can de-radicalize them. You can't de-radicalize them. You can't you strip away.
Well, I was going to add, just like Italy and Germany, now Spain is throwing thousands of people, old people, out of their government housing, and sometimes people's own hotels, to house them and then don't even pay them. And then you've got the federal police laughing about it. I mean, what does the left think this is going to do? You don't have the leftist like J.K. Rowling letting people in her mansions. She just wants poor people thrown out to put them in there. I mean, the left has become like just crazy psychotics.
Yeah, it's just, you know, they'll produce a Twitter feed and, you know, they're just virtue signaling. I was down in southern Spain a couple of weeks ago and I was talking to their Guardia Civil, which is a bit like a sort of militarized police force. And he said they had 20,000 migrants come to the southern Spain last year, and many more that slipped through that they couldn't actually find. And he reckons that this year, because of the closing off of Italy now, there's going to be doubling that. So the Guardia Civil are actually expecting 40,000. Now, some of your American viewers would be interested in this. These guys carry guns, and there's 2 enclaves of Spanish soil in Morocco, in Melilla and Ceuta. So these Guardia Civil are there. They built the wall, just like Trump wants to build. But these migrants, they take 49 seconds to jump over. And when they come over, they've got knives, they've got weapons. But you know what? The Guardia Civil are not allowed to shoot. They're not allowed to defend themselves. And these guys are hurtling at them, all fit, young men, economic migrants running at them.
Well, here's the deal. I don't want to capture the Islamic areas, and I'm not against all Muslims, but we need a little reconquista all over Europe that the Spanish originally launched that led in the Crusades. The Crusades were a response to being invaded and being attacked. And Europe needs to reestablish its borders, not give over Kosovo, not just like we gave away Turkey and Constantinople. No, we're being conquered. Now, we've got a loaded phones. I'm going to write to people when we come back, but I want to do a few more minutes with you just to ask, looking into your crystal ball, the exploding nationalism, populism awakening, how strong is it? How far will it go? And how will Soros and others strike back? Janice Atkinson is our guest, and when we come back on the other side, we'll also look a little bit at Article 13 and 11 that have passed out of committee to end the internet as we know it. It's Friday. I'm Alex Jones. Stay with us. Ladies and gentlemen, major history is happening. The unelected global government model of the Communist Chinese, the EU, the rest of it, it is imploding. It is falling apart right now. And nationalism and free market populism is coming back. It's surging. We're going to finish up with Janice Atkinson of janiceatkinson.co.uk. And folks, the videos, there's hundreds of them of what she and others are doing. And there's all these new great people from more than 25 countries in the EU that won out. Because the EU is this bureaucracy that the elites are tax exempt that are in the EU bureaucracy. It's just crazy how arrogant they are. But most of them are former Eastern Bloc bureaucrats. And then they're making Europe fall apart. And the UK is trying to pull out, so she was silent. So finishing up, Janice, your prognosis, other experts' prognosis, Nigel Farage's prognosis. I remember the week before they voted in Italy and all this happened, I talked to him on the phone, he predicted it all. He said, watch, Alex, Europe's on fire. Italy's about to explode. You've got coalition governments of leftists and right-wingers coming together because even the leftists know they're about to lose their pension funds, everything. I mean, this is the perfect storm. Soros is panicking. He's being kicked out of Hungary. Merkel, they say, could be removed by as early as 2 weeks from now. Even their fake polls have 60% against her. So looking at the trajectory of this, as a member of the EU Parliament, where's it going?
I think the young people are going to change their countries. In Eastern Europe, in Hungary, Poland, etc., they haven't had the liberal left education system that has blown our children's minds. So that's happening. There's great patriotic movements amongst the youth there. And in the southern European states like Italy, Spain, and Greece, there's extremely high unemployment. So they have gone to vote for the Matteo Salvinis of this world and the right-wing governments and even the five-star movements, the liberal left, the Greens are five-star. So there's this sort of awakening that's happening. High unemployment, you know, the West is, the way they've been educating people, we've got to try and change that in our schools and our universities. Where's it all going? We've got movements like Generation Identity. There are groups of patriotic young people that are growing very, very fast because what they're trying to do is preserve our culture and our heritage and our identity. And in the UK tomorrow, we've got another march for freedom, for Brexit, because tomorrow it's 2 years since we voted for Brexit. Still hasn't been delivered yet, but we expect 20,000, 30,000 people on the streets tomorrow. Those people are not voting Conservative. They're not voting Socialist. They're looking for something new to vote for. 2 weeks ago, we had 20,000 people on the streets in outside Downing Street and Whitehall, just demanding that Tommy Robinson has been released. So, you've got 50,000, 20,000, 100,000 people going on these marches, demanding that they want their freedom of speech, to free Tommy Robinson and also to leave the European Union. They're demanding this. And if Whitehall doesn't listen to them, then those people are looking for a new home. And I think something new will arise. There's definitely room on the centre-right to harness this growing belief in our nation state and our freedom.
And just because the leftist, globalist, identity politics media obsesses on it, I want to point something out. Just when I watch EU Parliament meetings, there is a large amount of smart, good-looking, dynamic women from Marie Le Pen to you that are leading so much of this now. Instead of what we've got with Theresa May, I saw curtsying to the prince the other day. She looks like a retarded spider. I'm sorry. I mean, this whole dichotomy, that's got to scare him, too, of all the women that it seemed to be that are coming into leadership roles just in nationalist and populist movements.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I was talking to a couple of people last week. It's strange that it's me, Lauren Southern, Katie Hopkins, that have all been to South Africa, and we're highlighting this. Then somebody said to me, are you speaking together? Are you coordinating your campaigns? I said, no, we're not. But, we are speaking now. All three of us have been to Russia recently and saying, look, they're not our enemy. It's China, who is an economic enemy, but certainly not Russia, who is our enemy. The Cold War is over. And then we start talking about sort of right-wing politics, freedom of speech and expression, and what we want for our children and our grandchildren.
It's all just an understanding.
For women.
Exactly, for women. And then Marie Le Pen pointed out to Trump a year ago, don't trust Macron, this is bull. Well, Macron's calling nationalism today and populism leprosy.
Leprosy, I know. I'm a leper. I'm a spreader of leprosy. And good. And long may it continue, because we will stop people like him, because he's like a clone. There's no difference between him and Trudeau and Renzi and Blair in his younger days and Cameron in his younger days as well. They've all been cut out of the same suit. They all wear the same suits, they wear the same ties, they go to the same hairdressers, and they've all had the chip put in there that is liberal leftism that we all have to adhere to. And we're saying, no, enough is enough. We've had enough. We're at a tipping point in this country, Alex, and it can go totally the other way to socialism and left liberalism, or we can say, no, we're not having this anymore. And we're going back to the nation state, and we are protecting.
Absolutely. We're almost out of time, folks. I promise when I come back, I'm going to write your calls. You've been real troopers. We had some Skype, got her on one segment late. That's why I had to change plans, but I promise next segment, one bam, bam, bam. So get ready. Just in closing, the bureaucracy wants all of this garbage, and they've now got Article 13, Article 11 that openly says the end of internet freedom. Even Wired and Gizmodo say they can't believe this is happening. So it looks like they're striking back with just an attempt to break the internet. It's very brazen. So what's going on? This passed the committee 2 days ago in the EU Parliament. Where's that going? What's the word?
Okay, so they go on about the digital economy week after week, month after month, year after year. But the truth is, they haven't got the capabilities like America has and like we have. We're light years ahead in the UK in developing software and the internet, etc., along with you. And there's this deep-hated jealousy of that as well. And because they can't control the freedom of speech on there, they want to tax it, they want to shut it down. So that's what's behind it. But this bill will come before us, the elected parliamentarians, in the next few months, and there is a big campaign to actually get it stopped. I hope it will. They don't actually like being told, but the trouble is with the EU, they just recycle something. So we may vote against it and we may get one small victory, but it doesn't stay.
Well, sure, it shows.
It goes straight back to the Commission, and it will come back in another guise, and eventually it will be passed.
Well, it shows their mindset. I talked to some senior folks in the government yesterday. I'll just leave it at that. And I just said, how bad the attacks are. You know about Google and Facebook and Twitter, and you know about what's happening, and you know about 13 and 11, and they didn't know about 13 and 11. So the president's being educated about 13 and 11, and I know our people talked to Congressman Jordan about it. He's aware. We're trying to get Congressman Gates to kind of be the leader of this and get on the floor every day and talk about it. This is the winning issue, plus it's the right issue. It's free speech. The left and the average young people don't want a censored internet. The establishment thinks they can sneak it by because Trump's 72 and all this, or, you know, and a lot of the folks in Congress don't understand it. We do. So when I'm lobbying, it's not how I want some weapons contract or something. I'm lobbying for a free internet, and folks, I am doing it. But we need everybody to be doing it and doing it very, very strong. I'm not at liberty to talk about the discussions we're involved in, but that's what we're doing. And we also asked the president, again 6 months ago, to stop the decriminalization of marijuana that Sessions is trying to put everybody in prison for. And he's done that now. They're fighting him there. So the president's very responsive. I can tell you that. And if you want to know where it's coming from, folks, the president is just, he's fighting 24/7, but he needs your input on the trail, when he's out on the street, everywhere. He's listening to you because he's listening to me. He's listening to Roger Stone. Okay, Janice, Atkinson.co.uk. Janice, thank you so much. You're awesome. We'll talk to you soon. Have a great weekend.
You too. Bye, everyone.
All right. Yeah. And I'm not bragging, folks, but, you know, I'm fighting hard. And what's crazy is the intel, you'd think everybody knew this in Congress. No, I tell people, they look it up, and then a week later I see them on TV doing something. The left's listening, though. You go to Media Matters, Soros' outfit, they're like, Jones says it, and 3 days later they're word for word saying it. We got to shut him down. And I say, that's what's so scary, though. It's like, why don't other people know all this? Why don't they study it? It's like Trump does the right thing when he has all the information, like Stone says, but everybody has got to make this the big issue. You got to call C-SPAN, you name it. You got to burn up the phone lines of the White House.
You know, someone very profoundly once said many years ago that if fascism ever comes to America, it'll come in the name of liberalism.
If you are receiving this transmission, you are the resistance.
Janice Atkinson is a member of Parliament for the European Union, which, again, it's an unelected body that runs it, but then they have a ceremonial parliament that's elected from the nation states, and it's become not ceremonial. It is now basically breaking it up. And what is the EU doing to counter-strike against this awakening?
I'm independent now. I'm sitting with the group that is the future for the European Parliament and also for Europe as a whole. People like Marine Le Pen, Geert Wilders. Marine Le Pen came second to Macron. She's the official opposition to the presidency. In France at the moment, we've got Geert Wilders, who is the official opposition. And people in my party, in the grouping in the Parliament, have also just formed the government for Austria. And next year, we might even see the Lega Nord form a coalition with Silvio Berlusconi, Forza for Italia. So that's the way it's going. Now, the populists are winning. They're trying to shut us down. It's not happening. They tried to censure us in the Parliament. I called somebody a lunatic the other day because actually she's a Liberal and she's the last remaining Liberal Democrat from the UK. I said she's quite mad, and I was censured because of that. And you get this beep that comes up, and we're censored for calling people what they are, basically. But what binds us all is that we have this visceral dislike of the EU. When I left UKIP and I decided to join Marine Le Pen and Geert Wilders and other people like Matteo Salvini, who could be the next Prime Minister of Italy in March of this year, we formed a small grouping, and we are known as the Populists. They used to call us racist and xenophobe, just like they called Trump all those things as well, and UKIP actually. And we're a grand coalition of 9 nations. We were with the Alternative for Deutschland in Germany. We think they've gone slightly far right. So the leader of that party, who was the former leader of the AfD, who is Frauke Petry, and her husband Markus Pretzel, have launched their own party now called the Blue Party, and we sit with them. We also sit with a couple of Czech people who have now gone to the polls in the Czech Republic, and they've got 22 members of parliament. They are now in negotiation to form the government. The government's already got a right-wing government, and our people from the Freedom Party of the Czech Republic are now talking about forming the government. Just a few weeks ago, our people, the Freedom Party for Austria, have just formed the government along with the right-wing Conservatives, and they are. So what's happening, Alex, is that it's our people that are winning. That the Social Democrats, the left, the liberal left of Europe, is absolutely collapsing.
Extendowise, the latest product from InfoWarsLife.com, fuses all the known compounds that have been proven to be good for our hearts and cardiovascular system. And listen, everybody's got a heart. Well, actually, maybe Hillary and George Soros don't, but everybody else has a heart, and this product is amazing. So, if you have a heart and you want the very best product out there that's designed to aid a healthy heart and cardiovascular system, it's Extendowise, available at InfoWarsLife.com. And like all of our products are game changers, this baby is the most souped up, awesome version the top formulators can come up with and still be affordable. It's one of the very best heart pills out there. It's Extendowise. So get some for yourself and family and friends. It's got the very best fish oil from the fjords. It's very, very pure, very, very clean, and has the EPA type that is specifically good for the heart, cardiovascular system. It's got the properly formulated type of CoQ10 and more. It is Extendowise, now available at InfoWarsLife.com.